Imagine being so rich that you can't tell who loves you and who loves your money. Damien Cross had everything, except the one thing money can't buy: someone who stays when the fortune disappears. So he did the unthinkable. He erased himself, walked away from billions, changed his name, became invisible. All to answer one desperate question: if I lose everything, does anyone stay? But what he didn't expect was her. A woman who saw him when he was no one, who stayed when he had nothing, who loved the man he'd forgotten he could be. Can a billionaire find truth in disguise? Or will his lie destroy the only real thing he's ever had? Stay until the end, and if you believe love should see the person, not the price tag, like this video and subscribe. Damien Cross stands at the top floor of Cross Industries, staring through rain-streaked glass at a city that worships his name but doesn't know his face. 34, untouchable, alone. He built an empire from his father's ashes, doubled it, tripled it, turned whispers into legends. But somewhere between the boardrooms and the billion-dollar deals, he forgot how to be seen, how to be known. Tonight he doesn't feel like a king. He feels like a ghost. His reflection stares back, sharp jaw, expensive suit, empty eyes. Behind him, the office hums with silence. His assistant left hours ago. His phone hasn't rung in days, not for him, only for his money. He presses his palm against the cold glass. Somewhere below, life happens. Laughter, connection, touch, things he stopped believing in. 3 weeks ago, his mother died. The funeral was full. The mourners were paid. No one stayed after. No one asked if he was okay. Because Damien Cross doesn't break, except he did. He broke quietly, in the dark, where no one could see. And now he's made a decision. He's going to find out who stays. Not for his name, not for his wealth, for him. So he's planned something unthinkable, something desperate, something dangerous. He's going to disappear, not physically, but socially, emotionally, financially. He'll strip away the armor, the legacy, the billion-dollar shield, and see who remains when there's nothing left to gain. His lawyer thought he was insane. His board tried to stop him, but Damien doesn't care anymore. He's tired of being worshipped by strangers and abandoned by everyone who claims to love him. The plan is simple. He'll liquidate visible assets, step down publicly, let the world believe Cross Industries is crumbling. He'll move into a modest neighborhood under a false name, take a quiet job, live like everyone else. And he'll watch. He'll watch who calls, who cares, who stays when the spotlight dies. It's a test, a cruel one. But he needs to know, because if no one stays, then he was right all along. He was always alone. 1 week later, Damien walks into a small community center on the east side of the city. The rain hasn't stopped. His clothes are simple. Jeans, a worn jacket, no logos. No one looks twice. He's invisible. And it terrifies him. The job posting was for a part-time coordinator. Nothing glamorous. Organizing donations, managing volunteer schedules, helping neighbors who can't afford help. It's the opposite of everything he's ever known. The woman who interviews him is late. He waits in a cramped office that smells like old coffee and hope. The walls are covered in thank you notes from families, faded photos of community events, children's drawings. It feels real. More real than anything in his penthouse ever did. Then, the door opens, and she walks in. Her name is Elena. She's rushing, apologetic, juggling a clipboard and a takeout container. Her hair is pulled back in a messy bun. She's wearing a sweater with a small tear at the sleeve. No makeup, no pretense. She looks at him, really looks, and smiles. Not the smile people gave Damien Cross, a real one. "Sorry I'm late," she says, breathless. "Crazy morning. You're here for the coordinator position?" He nods. She sits across from him, flipping through his fabricated resume. He's terrified she'll see through it. But she doesn't, because she's not looking for red flags. She's looking for sincerity. "Why do you want to work here?" she asks. It's a simple question. But Damien doesn't have a simple answer, because the truth is too raw, because I need to remember what it feels like to matter. Instead, he says softly, "I want to be useful." Eleanor tilts her head, studying him, and for the first time in years, Damien feels seen. Not as a billionaire, not as a name, as a man. She hires him on the spot. That night, Damien lies awake in his small, rented apartment, a world away from marble floors and silent servants. He thinks about Elena's smile, the way she looked at him like he was worth knowing, and he realizes something terrifying. He wants her to keep looking at him that way, even when she finds out who he really is. But what Damien doesn't know yet is that Elena has a secret too, and when their truths collide, everything will shatter. Damien learns quickly that invisibility has a price. No one opens doors for him anymore. No one listens when he speaks. He stands in line at coffee shops, waits for buses that smell like rain and strangers, carries his own bags. And it's humbling, painful, clarifying. At the community center, he sorts donations in a cramped storage room. Boxes of clothes that smell like other people's lives, canned food with dented labels, toys missing pieces. Eleanor works beside him most days. She doesn't talk much while she works, just hums softly, some melody he doesn't recognize. Her hands move with careful efficiency. She folds each shirt like it matters, like the person who'll wear it matters. Damien watches her when she's not looking, the way she tucks hair behind her ear, the small scar on her wrist, the way she bites her lip when she's concentrating. She's beautiful in a way that has nothing to do with perfection. She's beautiful because she's present. One afternoon, a mother comes in with 3 children. The youngest is crying. The woman looks exhausted, the kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. Elena kneels down to the child's level, whispers something Damien can't hear. The crying stops. The mother's eyes fill with tears. "Thank you," she whispers. Elena just smiles, hands her 2 bags of groceries. Doesn't make it feel like charity, makes it feel like kindness. After they leave, Damien asks quietly, "How do you do that?" Elena looks at him surprised. "Do what?" "Make people feel seen." She shrugs, but there's something sad in her eyes. "Because I know what it's like to be invisible." She doesn't elaborate, and Damien doesn't push, but the words echo in his chest for hours. That night, he breaks his own rule. He checks his old life. Sitting in his dim apartment, he opens his laptop, the only expensive thing he kept. His fingers hover over the keys. Then he searches his own name. Damien Cross steps down, Cross Industries in crisis. Billionaire vanishes after mother's death, mental breakdown. Fortune crumbling, investors panic as HEIR disappears. The headlines are brutal, exactly as he planned. But underneath the articles, in the comment sections, he finds something worse. Always knew he was unstable. Rich people problems. Who cares? He's still richer than we'll ever be. No one is worried about him. They're worried about their investments. Damien closes the laptop, sits in the dark, and feels the loneliness settle deeper. The next week, Elena invites him to a community dinner. It's held in the center's main hall, long tables covered in mismatched tablecloths, folding chairs, paper plates. The food is simple, donated, imperfect, but the room is alive. Laughter, conversation, children running between tables, strangers sharing meals like family. Damien sits at the edge, uncomfortable, out of place. Then Elena sits beside him. She doesn't say anything at first, just hands him a plate. "You don't have to eat alone," she says softly. Something cracks inside him, because no one has said that to him in years. He eats in silence, but she stays. And somehow, that's enough. Later, as they clean up, an elderly man approaches. His hands shake as he holds a worn envelope. For the center, he says to Elena. It's not much, but I wanted to help. Elena opens it carefully. Inside, $20. She looks up at him with tears in her eyes. This is everything, she whispers. Thank you. The man shuffles away, smiling. Damien stares at the $20 bill in her hands. He's written checks for millions without blinking. But this $20 given by someone who has nothing means more than anything he's ever owned. Eleanor catches him staring. What? She asks. He shakes his head. Nothing, just... You're different. She laughs, soft, self-conscious. Different bad or different good? He doesn't hesitate. Good, really good. For a moment their eyes hold, and Damien feels something he hasn't felt in a decade. Hope. But that night, everything shifts. Damien is walking home through the rain when he sees her, Elena, standing outside a small apartment building arguing with a man. The man is older, aggressive, gesturing wildly. Damien's instincts flare. He moves closer, staying in the shadows. The man grabs Elena's arm. She pulls away, voice sharp. I said no. You owe me. I don't owe you anything. The man's face twists with anger. He leans in, threatening, and Damien steps forward. Let her go. His voice is calm, cold, the voice of a man who's commanded boardrooms. The man turns, sizes him up, laughs. Or what? Damien doesn't answer. He just holds the man's gaze, steady, unflinching, until the laughter dies. The man releases Eleanor, walks away muttering curses. Damien turns to Eleanor. She's trembling. Not from fear, from rage. I didn't need your help, she says. I know. I can handle myself. I know. Then why? Because I wanted to. Silence stretches between them. Rain drums on the pavement. Eleanor's expression softens. Who are you? She asks quietly. And Damien realizes she's not asking his name. She's asking something deeper. Who are you, really? He wants to tell her, wants to confess everything, but the words stick in his throat. Because if he tells her the truth now, she'll never look at him the same way again. So instead, he just says, someone who cares. Elena studies his face in the dim streetlight, then nods slowly. Thank you. She turns to leave, but before she does, she looks back. That man, he's my brother. And then she's gone, leaving Damien standing in the rain, with 100 new questions and one terrifying realization. Elena's life is more complicated than he ever imagined, and he's already in too deep to walk away. Damien doesn't sleep that night. He lies in the dark, replaying the scene. Elena's voice, sharp with defiance, the way her brother grabbed her, the word that keeps circling his mind, Owe. What does she owe him? And why does a woman who gives everything to strangers look so trapped by her own blood? He wants to search for answers. His old instincts scream at him. Hire investigators, pull records, find the truth in minutes. But that's not who he is anymore, at least not who he's pretending to be. So he waits and watches. The next morning at the center, Eleanor is different, quieter. Her smile doesn't reach her eyes. She moves through her tasks mechanically, efficient but absent. Damien works beside her in silence, sorting winter coats. After an hour, she speaks without looking at him, apologizes for what he witnessed, says her brother isn't bad, just lost, has been for 6 years. Damien recognizes that tone immediately, the tone of someone making excuses for people who don't deserve them. He tells her gently that she can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. Eleanor's hands still on a small blue jacket. When she looks at him, her eyes are tired, old beyond their years. She's not trying to save her brother, she whispers. She's trying to survive him. The words hit Damien like a fist, because he understands now. She's not helping. She's trapped. That afternoon, a girl comes to the center, maybe 16, skinny, bruised knuckles, eyes that have seen too much. She asks for Eleanor specifically. Eleanor takes her to the small office, closes the door. Damien tries not to listen, but the walls are thin, and he hears fragments, running, hiding, nowhere else to go. When the door opens, Elena's face is set with determination. The girl follows her out, clutching a small bag. Elena tells Damien she needs to step out, asks if he can cover. He nods. She leaves with the girl and doesn't return for 3 hours. When Elena finally comes back, it's almost dark. She looks exhausted, drained. Damien is still there, finishing the last of the day's work. She tells him he didn't have to stay. He stayed because he wanted to. She leans against the doorframe, studying him with an expression that makes his chest tighten. Then she asks the question he's been dreading. Why is he really here? He doesn't understand. She explains softly. He doesn't fit. The way he moves, the way he speaks, even the way he folds clothes like he's trying to remember how, like someone running from something. Most people run to places like this, she says. He feels like someone running from a place most people would kill to be. Damien's throat tightens. He admits carefully that he had a life that looked perfect, but was empty. That he left, that he's trying to figure out what matters. She asks if he's figured it out yet. Damien looks at her, really looks at her. At the woman who gives everything and asks for nothing, who fights for strangers and endures family, who sees him in a way no one ever has. He's starting to, he whispers. Something shifts in Elena's expression, not suspicion. Something softer, dangerous. Then her phone rings. The moment shatters. She glances at the screen. Her face goes pale. She answers, listens, tells someone she'll be right there. Her brother. The hospital. Damien doesn't think. He just follows. Eleanor doesn't stop him. Maybe she's too scared to be alone. Maybe she's too tired to care. They take the bus across town. Elena stares out the rain-streaked window, silent. Her hands twist in her lap. Damien wants to reach for them. Doesn't. At the hospital, they find Elena's brother in the ER. He's conscious but battered. Split lip, swollen eye, bandaged ribs. Elena rushes to his side. Her brother's eyes are glassy, unfocused. He apologizes through tears, begs. Elena closes her eyes. Damien sees it then. The weight she carries, the invisible chains. A nurse pulls Eleanor aside, speaks in low tones. Damien catches fragments. Debt collectors. Dangerous people. $15,000. Eleanor's face crumbles. $15,000. For Damien Cross, that's pocket change, less than he spent on a watch. But for Elena, it's impossible. She returns to her brother's bedside, her voice flat, telling him she can't do this anymore. Her brother grabs her hand, begs again, promises to get clean to pay her back. Just one more time. Eleanor pulls her hand away, stands and walks out. Damien follows her into the hallway. She's crying now, silent, shaking sobs. He doesn't ask permission, just steps forward and wraps his arms around her. She collapses into him, and for the first time since his mother's funeral, Damien holds someone while they break. Later, in the harsh fluorescent light of the hospital cafeteria, Elena stares at cold coffee. She whispers that she doesn't have $15,000. Damien's jaw clenches. He could write a check right now, end this in seconds. But he can't. Because the moment he does, everything changes. Elena laughs bitterly, says there's never another way. Then she looks up at him and asks again, why is he still here? Damien tells her she shouldn't be alone. She says he doesn't even know her. He knows enough. Eleanor's eyes search his face. Ask without words, "Who are you?" And Damien realizes, and he's standing at a crossroads. Tell her the truth and lose her, or keep lying and watch her drown. But before he can answer, Elena's phone rings again. Unknown number. She answers. Her face goes white. She listens without speaking, then hangs up. "The debt collectors want the money by Friday," she whispers, "or they'll come for her instead." And Damien knows in that moment his test is over, because he can't watch her suffer. Not when he has the power to save her, even if saving her means destroying everything he came here to find. Damien walks Elena home through streets slicked with rain. Neither speaks. The silence between them is heavy with things unsaid. Her fear, his guilt, the impossible weight of Friday's deadline pressing down like a countdown to catastrophe. At her building's entrance, Elena stops, turns to face him. Her eyes are red-rimmed, exhausted, but there's something else there too. Gratitude. Trust. Things Damien doesn't deserve. She reaches for his hand, squeezes once, then disappears inside. Damien stands in the rain long after she's gone. His mind races through calculations he's made 1,000 times in boardrooms, risk assessments, cost-benefit analysis, strategic plays, $15,000. He could end this tonight. One transfer, one anonymous donation to the center earmarked for employee emergencies. Problem solved. But it's not that simple. Because the moment money appears from nowhere, questions follow. And questions lead to investigations. And investigations lead to truth. The truth that David Chen, the quiet coordinator who sorts donated coats, is actually Damien Cross, the billionaire who abandoned an empire to play poverty. She'd never forgive him, not for having money, but for the lie. That night, Damien breaks another rule. He makes a call. His lawyer answers on the first ring, voice tight with barely contained frustration. 3 weeks of radio silence and now this. Damien keeps it brief. Needs $15,000, cash, untraceable, by Thursday night. His lawyer asks no questions, just agrees. This is why Damien pays him 7 figures annually. Before hanging up, his lawyer mentions something else. The board is panicking. Investors are threatening lawsuits. The company is hemorrhaging value. Damien tells him to hold the line, just a little longer, then ends the call, sits in darkness, and wonders when helping someone became so complicated. The next 2 days pass in agonizing slow motion. Elena comes to work, but she's somewhere else. Her body moves through tasks, but her mind is trapped in Friday's approaching deadline. Damien watches her unravel, sees her check her phone compulsively, jump at sudden sounds, lose focus mid-conversation. On Thursday afternoon, she drops an entire box of canned goods. The crash echoes through the center. She just stands there, staring at the scattered cans. Damien moves to help. Elena waves him off, kneels, starts gathering them with shaking hands. One rolls toward him. He picks it up. Their fingers touch as he hands it to her, and for a moment, time stops. Elena looks up at him with eyes so full of fear and exhaustion that Damien feels something crack inside his chest. He wants to tell her everything will be okay, wants to promise her safety, but promises require truth. And truth is the one thing he can't give. Thursday night, Damien receives the package, $15,000 in cash, bundled in neat stacks, wrapped in anonymous brown paper. He stares at it in his apartment. This money represents different things. To Elena, salvation. To her brother, another chance to destroy himself. To Damien, a choice between his test and his conscience. He knows giving it to her directly would raise suspicions, so he devises a plan. Tomorrow he'll arrive at the center early, leave an envelope in Elena's desk drawer. Anonymous, no note. Just cash and timing that suggests divine intervention rather than human interference. She'll have questions, but she'll be safe, and that's all that matters. Except Friday morning, everything goes wrong. Damien arrives at the center at dawn, envelope hidden in his jacket. But Elena is already there. She's in the office, door open, sitting at her desk with her head in her hands. Damien freezes in the doorway. She looks up. Her face is streaked with tears. She tells him quietly that her brother disappeared from the hospital last night, checked himself out. No one knows where he is, which means the debt collectors will come for her. Today. Damien's grip tightens on the envelope in his pocket. Elena stands, tries to compose herself, apologizes for breaking down. Says she needs to work, needs to stay busy, needs to pretend today is normal even though nothing will ever be normal again. Damien watches her leave the office and makes a decision. He follows her into the storage room where she's already attacking boxes with manic energy, organizing, sorting, controlling the only things she can control. He doesn't announce himself, just places the envelope on the shelf beside her. Elena stops, stares at it, picks it up with trembling fingers, opens it. The cash spills into her hands. Her breath catches. She counts quickly, once, twice, 15,000 exactly. She wheels around to face Damien. Her expression is a war between hope and confusion and something close to terror. She asks the only question that matters. Where did this come from? Damien keeps his voice steady, says he doesn't know. Found it this morning. Must have been left overnight. Elena's eyes search his face, looking for the lie. And Damien realizes with sinking dread that she's too smart, too observant. She knows, not the whole truth, but enough to understand that this isn't coincidence. She steps closer, still holding the cash. Her voice drops to a whisper. Asks him directly, "Did you do this?" The question hangs between them, heavy, dangerous. Damien could lie, should lie. But standing here, watching this woman who's been drowning finally see shore, he can't bring himself to take that lifeline away. So he tells her the simplest version of truth. Yes. Elena's face cycles through emotions too fast to track. Shock, confusion, anger, relief. She asks how. How does someone who works part-time at a community center have $15,000 in cash? Damien's mind races through possible explanations. Before he can answer, Elena steps back, shakes her head, tells him she can't accept this. Damien moves forward, says she has to. Says those men are coming today and this is the only way to stop them. Elena's hands tighten on the money. She asks what he wants in return. The question cuts deeper than any blade, because Damien wants everything. Wants her to look at him the way she did before. Wants her trust, wants her smile. Wants to be the man she thought he was instead of the liar he actually is. But he just says, nothing. Elena doesn't believe him. People don't give away $15,000 for nothing. So Damien tells her something true. Says he knows what it's like to be trapped, to feel like the world is closing in, to need help and have nowhere to turn. Says that someone helped him once, and he's just passing it forward. It's close enough to truth to sound genuine, far enough from reality to keep his secret safe. Elena's eyes fill with tears again, but these are different. Not despair, something closer to devastation, because she realizes what accepting this money means. It means owing someone, again, and she's so tired of owing, but she's more tired of drowning. So she nods, takes the money, whispers thank you in a voice that sounds like breaking. That afternoon, Elena leaves to meet the debt collectors. Damien insists on going with her. She refuses. They stand in the center's parking lot, rain beginning to fall again, locked in a silent battle of wills. Finally, Elena relents, but only because she's too scared to face them alone. They take a cab to a warehouse district on the city's edge. Abandoned buildings, broken streetlights, the kind of place where people disappear. Two men wait outside a rusted metal door. They're exactly what Damien expected. Hard faces, dead eyes, violence coiled beneath expensive suits. Elena approaches with the envelope. One man counts the cash slowly, methodically. The other watches Damien. Something in his gaze makes Damien's instincts scream. Recognition, not of David Chen. Try of something else. The man counting finishes, nods, says the debt is cleared, but then adds something that makes Elena's blood drain from her face. Her brother borrowed again. Last night. Another 20,000, due in 2 weeks. Elena staggers backward. The men smile. Cruel. Satisfied. Then they leave. And Elena collapses against the warehouse wall, sliding down until she's sitting on wet pavement. Damien kneels beside her. She's not crying. She's past crying. She's hollow, broken, looking at nothing. And Damien realizes his test has revealed something he never wanted to know, that watching someone you care about suffer is worse than any loneliness. That having power you can't use is its own kind of prison. That some lies, told for good reasons, still destroy everything they touch. Elena finally speaks. Her voice is empty. Says she's done. Can't keep doing this. Her brother will drag her under until there's nothing left. Damien wants to argue. Wants to tell her he'll fix this too, but he can't. Because he's starting to understand that money can't solve everything. And some problems require truth. Even when truth costs everything. Elena doesn't come to work for 3 days. Damien calls, texts, gets nothing back. He stands outside her apartment building twice. Doesn't go up, doesn't have the right. The center feels hollow without her. The volunteers ask where she is. Damien makes excuses, says she's dealing with family issues. They nod with understanding because everyone here knows what family issues means. Broken people, breaking the people who love them. On the 4th day, Damien finds her at the center at midnight. The building should be locked, empty. But light spills from the main hall windows. Damien uses his key, walks in quietly. Eleanor sits alone in the middle of the room, surrounded by boxes of donations. She's sorting clothes in the dark except for one overhead light. Her movements are mechanical, rhythmic, almost meditative. She doesn't look up when he approaches, just keeps folding. Damien sits across from her, picks up a shirt, starts folding too. They work in silence for 20 minutes. Finally, Elena speaks without stopping her hands. Says she sold her car, her laptop, her mother's jewelry, everything she owns worth anything. Got $8,000, 12,000 short, still drowning. Damien's chest tightens. Elena continues, voice flat. Says her brother called yesterday, crying, begging, promising this is the last time. She told him she has nothing left. He hung up. She hasn't heard from him since. Doesn't know if he's alive or dead. And the terrible truth, she whispers, is that part of her doesn't care anymore. Part of her hopes he's gone, so she can finally breathe. The confession hangs in the air like poison. Damien stops folding, looks at this woman who's given everything, to strangers, to her brother, to a world that takes and never gives back. And he realizes he can't do this anymore, can't watch her break, can't hide behind his test, can't pretend that finding out who stays matters more than being someone worth staying for. He opens his mouth to tell her everything, but Eleanor speaks first, says she knows he's lying about who he is. The words land like a gunshot. Damien's blood goes cold. Eleanor finally looks up. Her eyes are clear, tired, but not accusing, just sad. She tells him she's known for weeks, the way he moves, the confidence beneath the humble clothes, the way he solved a filing system in minutes that took her months to understand, the unconscious authority in his voice when he thinks no one's listening. But mostly, she says, it's the way he looks at poverty, like a tourist, like someone visiting a country they'll eventually leave. She doesn't know what he's running from, doesn't know his real name, doesn't know why someone with obvious education and resources would choose to work at a community center for minimum wage. But she knows he's not who he says he is. Damien's throat closes. Elena keeps going, says she didn't confront him because everyone here is running from something. She's not one to judge, and honestly, she tells him quietly, she didn't want to lose the only person who made this place feel less lonely. But now after the money, after watching him watch her suffer with an expression that looks like guilt, she needs to know. Is he hiding from the law? From debt? From someone dangerous? Because if he's in trouble, she wants to help. The irony nearly breaks Damien. This woman who has nothing wants to save him. He almost laughs, almost cries. Instead, he tells her a version of truth. Says his name isn't David, that he came from money, that he walked away from a life that was killing him slowly, that he wanted to know what real life felt like, what real people were like, what mattered when everything else was stripped away. Says he's not hiding from the law, just from himself. Elena absorbs this, nods slowly, asks if the 15,000 was his money. Damien hesitates, then admits yes. Elena closes her eyes, takes a shaky breath, asks how much more he has. And there it is, the question that will end everything. Damien could still lie. Could say the 15,000 was all his savings, that he's broke now too. But looking at Elena's face, exhausted, desperate, trying so hard to survive, he can't lie anymore. So he tells her the truth. More than enough. Elena goes very still. Her hands stop moving. She stares at the shirt in her lap for a long moment. Then asks the question Damien has been dreading. How much is more than enough? Damien's jaw tightens. He could deflect, could say it doesn't matter. But they're past deflection now. So he tells her, hundreds of millions, maybe billions, depending on the market. The silence that follows is deafening. Elena stands up slowly, steps back, looks at him like she's never seen him before, because she hasn't. She's been seeing David Chen, the humble coordinator, not Damien Cross, the man who could buy this entire neighborhood without checking his account balance. Her expression cycles through disbelief, betrayal, anger, confusion, then settles on something worse, humiliation. She realizes what this means, that while she's been drowning, barely surviving, selling her dead mother's jewelry for pennies, he's been playing poor, treating her life like a social experiment, watching her suffer while he could have solved everything with a phone call. She asks one question, voice shaking, why? And Damien realizes there's no good answer. Because the truth, that he wanted to find out who stays when the money disappears, sounds obscene standing in front of someone who never had the luxury of pretending poverty. He tries to explain, says he was alone, that everyone in his life wanted his money, not him, that he needed to know if anyone would care about him without it. Elena laughs. It's a bitter, hollow sound. She says, congratulations. He found out. She cared. She stayed. She trusted him. And all of it was based on a lie. Damien reaches for her. She steps back, tells him not to touch her, says she needs to think. Then she walks out, leaves him standing in the empty community center, surrounded by donated clothes and the wreckage of his own choices. Damien doesn't follow. He sits in the silence for hours, watches dawn creep through the windows, and finally understands what he's lost. Not a test subject, not a social experiment, but a woman who saw past every wall he'd built and chose to stay anyway. Until he gave her a reason to leave. His phone buzzes, a message from his lawyer. The board is demanding he return. The company is in freefall. Investors are pulling out. Everything he built is collapsing. Damien stares at the message, then deletes it, because he realizes something that should terrify him but instead brings strange clarity. He doesn't care about the company, hasn't cared in months, maybe years. What he cares about is sitting somewhere right now, alone and betrayed, believing that even kindness was a lie. And he has to fix it, not with money, not with power, but with the one thing he's been too afraid to give, Truth. Complete, vulnerable, terrifying truth, even if it destroys him. Damien spends the day preparing, not a business strategy, a confession. He writes everything down, his real name, why he left, what he was looking for, how he found it in her, how he fell in love without meaning to, how watching her suffer nearly killed him, how every day he didn't tell her the truth felt like betrayal, how he's sorry, how he understands if she never forgives him, how she changed his life by seeing him when he was invisible. He doesn't expect forgiveness, just wants her to know. That night he goes to her apartment. The lights are off. He slips the letter under her door, walks away, and waits. 1 day passes, 2, 3. No response. Damien continues going to the center. Eleanor doesn't come back. The volunteers ask if she's okay. Damien says he doesn't know. It's the most honest thing he's said in months. On the 4th night, someone knocks on his apartment door. Damien opens it. Eleanor stands in the hallway. Her eyes are red, face pale. She's holding his letter, crumpled from being read 100 times. She doesn't speak, just looks at him. And Damien sees everything in that look. Hurt, anger, confusion, but also something that looks like hope. She asks one question, her voice barely a whisper. Is any of it real? And Damien knows this is the moment, the one chance to tell the complete truth, or lose her forever. Damien steps back, opens the door wider. Eleanor hesitates on the threshold, caught between walking away forever and walking into whatever truth waits inside. She chooses truth, steps in. The apartment is sparse, one lamp, a mattress on the floor, boxes still unpacked. The bare minimum of a life deliberately stripped down. Elena looks around, taking it in. This isn't how billionaires live. Even ones pretending to be poor usually can't quite commit to the discomfort. But he did. Because he wasn't pretending. He was trying to disappear. Elena sits on the single chair. Damien stays standing. The letter trembles slightly in her hands. She asks again, quieter this time. Is any of it real? Damien moves to the window, looks out at rain-slicked streets, takes a breath that feels like drowning. Then he tells her everything. His real name, Damien Cross, the empire he inherited at 23, how he tripled its value in a decade, how the bigger it grew, the smaller he felt, how his mother was the only person who loved him without agenda, how when she died, her funeral was packed with people who didn't know her middle name, how he stood at her grave and realized he was completely alone. He tells Elena about the test, the plan, walking away from billions to find out if anyone would stay for him instead of his money. But then he met her, and everything changed. He turns to face her, tells her the first day they met, when she smiled at him like he mattered, something cracked in his chest, that working beside her felt more real than a decade of boardrooms, that somewhere between folding donated coats and riding buses in the rain, he fell in love with her, not as part of the test, despite it. The words hang in the air. Elena's face is unreadable. Damien continues, voice rough. Admits the 15,000 was selfish, that he couldn't stand watching her suffer when he had the power to stop it, that every day he didn't tell her the truth felt like betrayal. Elena sits motionless, processing. Finally she speaks, her voice steady, but her hands shake. She read the letter 17 times, cried through most of them, wanted to burn it, wanted to never see him again, but mostly she wanted to understand. Because the David she knew, the one who stayed late, who held her when she broke, who looked at her like she was worth something, that person felt real, so she needs to know. Was David real, or just a role? The question cuts to bone. Damien sits on the floor across from her, eye level, no power plays, just honesty. He tells her David was who he wished he could be, but the feelings were Damien's, the care was Damien's, the love was Damien's. David was a name, but what he felt for her was real. Elena's eyes fill with tears. She asks why he didn't just tell her. Why the elaborate lie? Why watch her suffer? Damien's voice breaks. Says because he's a coward, because he was terrified that the moment she knew, everything would change, that he'd lose the only real thing he'd found in a decade. Eleanor wipes her eyes roughly, says he lost it anyway. The words land like a death sentence. Damien nods, accepts it, tells her he understands, that he'll leave her alone, that she'll never have to see him again, that he's sorry. He stands to leave his own apartment, give her space to process, but Eleanor's voice stops him. Wait. Damien freezes. Elena stands too, paces, runs her hands through her hair. She tells him she should hate him, should walk out and never look back, but she can't, because despite everything, part of her understands. She stops pacing, faces him, tells him about her own lies, how she lets people think she's just unlucky, just has a troubled brother. But the truth is darker. Her brother's debts are part of a cycle that started with their father. Addiction passed down like inheritance. Her mother spent her life trying to save men who didn't want saving. Died broke and broken. Elena swore she wouldn't repeat the pattern, but here she is, drowning in someone else's choices. She comes to the center at midnight because her apartment has holes in the walls, because the heat doesn't work, because sometimes she's so tired of surviving that she wants to disappear too. So she gets it, the running, the hiding, the desperate need to know if you matter. But here's the difference, she says, voice hardening. She never had the luxury of choosing poverty. Damien was slumming, playing pretend, treating struggle like a costume he could take off whenever it got uncomfortable, while she lives it, every single day. The words hit like physical blows, because she's right. Damien's test was built on privilege, on the safety net of knowing billions waited whenever he decided to return. He was never truly at risk, just temporarily uncomfortable. Eleanor's voice cracks, says that's what hurts most. Not the lie about his name, not even the money, but that he witnessed her humiliation and treated it like anthropological research, like her pain was data. Damien feels something shatter inside him. He sinks back to the floor, tells her she's right, about all of it, that his test was cruel and selfish and built on privilege he didn't even recognize, that he came looking for people who would stay, but forgot that staying requires being someone worth staying for, and he wasn't. He was a liar, a coward, a rich man playing poor while real people suffered. The confession empties him out. Elena watches him break. For a long moment, neither speaks. Rain drums against windows. Then Elena sits back down, her voice quiet, exhausted. She asks if he'll go back to his real life, his empire, his billions. Damien looks up, tells her the company is collapsing, the board is panicking, and he doesn't care, because he finally understands what his mother tried to tell him, that wealth without meaning is just weight, that power without connection is just prison. He tells Elena she taught him what actually matters, that she saved him, even though he didn't deserve it. Elena's tears fall freely now. She wishes he'd just been honest. That what breaks her isn't that he has money, it's that he didn't trust her enough to tell her. Damien nods, says he was so afraid of losing her that he guaranteed it. Silence stretches, heavy with everything broken between them. Finally, Elena stands. Damien's heart sinks, but Elena doesn't leave. Instead, she asks one more question, her voice barely audible. If they started over, right now, with complete honesty, no lies, no tests, just two broken people trying to figure out what matters. Would he want that? Damien's breath catches. Yes, more than anything. Elena closes her eyes, takes a shaky breath, says she doesn't know if she can trust him again, doesn't know if what they had can survive the truth. But she knows one thing. The way he made her feel wasn't a lie. And maybe that's enough to start with. Maybe. She opens her eyes, tells him if they do this, it's on her terms. Complete transparency. No more secrets. And he has to prove every single day that he's someone worth trusting, starting with fixing her brother's debt, not as charity, as accountability. Damien nods immediately. Yes, to all of it. Elena studies his face one last time, looking for lies, finding only desperate hope. She's going home. Needs time to think, but tomorrow, if he's serious, he'll meet her at the center, and they'll start over, honestly. She walks to the door, pauses, doesn't turn around. Just says quietly that she doesn't know if she can forgive him, but maybe she can try. Then she's gone. And Damien sits alone, holding on to maybe like a lifeline, because maybe means hope, and hope means chance. And a chance with Elena is worth more than all the billions he ever had. The next morning, Damien arrives at the center before dawn. The building is dark, silent. He unlocks the door with hands that won't stop shaking. He doesn't know if Elena will come. Doesn't know if maybe it was real or just kindness softening a final goodbye. So he does the only thing he can. He works, sorts donations, organizes shelves, fixes the broken table in the corner that's wobbled for months, cleans windows, mops floors, makes coffee and waits. 7 o'clock comes, then 8, then 9. Other volunteers arrive. Ask where Elena is. Damien says he doesn't know. It's the truth. By noon, he's convinced she's not coming. That maybe meant nothing. That he destroyed the best thing in his life, and there's no coming back from it. Then the door opens. Elena walks in. She looks exhausted, like she didn't sleep. Her eyes are puffy from crying. But she's here. She sees Damien across the room. Neither moves. The moment stretches, fragile, impossible, heavy with everything unsaid. Then Elena crosses the space between them, stops 3 feet away, close enough to speak quietly, far enough to run if she needs to. She asks if he meant what he said last night, about starting over, about complete honesty. Damien nods, every word. Elena studies his face, looking for cracks in the foundation, testing whether this is real or just another performance. Then she tells him about her brother, how she got a call this morning. He's in rehab, a facility 3 hours north, expensive, anonymous, already paid for. She knows Damien did it. Damien doesn't deny it. Elena's voice trembles, asks him to understand something. Her brother's addiction isn't a problem money can solve. This is his 4th rehab, maybe his 5th. Each time he promises change, each time he relapses. She's grateful, truly. But she needs Damien to know that fixing her brother won't fix them. Because the issue isn't the debt, it's the trust. Damien tells her he knows that he's not trying to buy forgiveness, just trying to clean up damage his experiment caused. Elena nods slowly, then asks what happens now, with his company, his life, his billions. Does he go back? Does David disappear and Damien Cross return to his empire? The question hangs between them. Damien takes a breath, tells her he spent last night on the phone with his board, told them he's not coming back. Not as CEO, not as the face of the company. They threatened lawsuits, called him insane, said he's destroying everything his father built. He told them his father built a prison, and he's choosing freedom. He's keeping enough to live comfortably, donating the rest, setting up foundations, funding community centers, investing in the kind of places that saved him when he was drowning, starting with this one. But he's not doing it as some billionaire savior. He's doing it quietly, anonymously, letting the work speak instead of his name, because he finally understands what his mother knew. That legacy isn't what you build, it's who you help build themselves. Eleanor's eyes fill with tears again. She asks what he'll do, where he'll live, who he'll be. Damien's voice is steady, says he doesn't know yet, but he knows who he wants to become. Someone honest, someone present, someone who doesn't hide behind money or masks, someone worthy of a woman who sees people instead of price tags, if she'll let him try. Elena closes her eyes. 2 tears slip down her cheeks. When she opens them, there's something different in her gaze. Not forgiveness, not yet, but possibility. She tells him this won't be easy, that she'll have hard days. That sometimes she'll look at him and remember the lie. That trust takes time to rebuild, that he'll have to be patient. Damien tells her he'll wait as long as it takes. Months, years, forever if necessary. Because she's worth it. Elena almost smiles. Almost. Then she does something that breaks Damien's heart and mends it simultaneously. She reaches out, takes his hand. Her fingers are cold, trembling slightly, but they're real. She tells him they'll start small, working together, talking, learning who they actually are when the masks come off. No promises, no expectations, just honesty, day by day. Damien squeezes her hand gently, nods. It's enough. More than enough. 6 months pass. The community center expands. New programs, more volunteers. Resources that seemed impossible suddenly materializing through anonymous donations that everyone suspects, but no one questions. Damien works there 5 days a week. No longer David Chen, just Damien. No last name needed. He learns people's names, their stories, their struggles. He listens more than he speaks, helps more than he leads, and slowly, painfully, beautifully, he becomes someone real. Elena keeps her distance at first, professional, cautious, testing whether his transformation is genuine or just another well-performed role. But time reveals truth. She watches him stay late to help an elderly woman fill out medical forms, sees him teach a teenager job interview skills, notices how he treats everyone with the same respect, regardless of what they can offer him. And gradually the walls between them start to crumble. They have coffee, then lunch, then long walks through rain-soaked streets. They talk about everything. His childhood in mansions that felt like museums, her childhood in apartments where love was the only luxury, his fear of being alone, her fear of being trapped, the wounds they carry, the hope they're learning to hold. One evening, 6 months to the day after Eleanor walked into his apartment demanding truth, they stand together in the empty center after everyone else has left. Rain drums on the roof. The building smells like coffee and old books and kindness. Eleanor turns to Damien, tells him she's been thinking about trust, about forgiveness, about what it means to start over, and she's decided something. She doesn't need him to be perfect, doesn't need him to have all the answers, doesn't need grand gestures or billion-dollar solutions. She just needs him to be honest, to be present, to be the man he's been becoming instead of the man he was pretending to be. And if he can do that, then maybe they have a chance. Damien's voice is rough with emotion, tells her he can, will, every single day. Elena steps closer, close enough that he can see the gold flecks in her brown eyes, close enough to feel her breath. She tells him she's not ready to say she loves him. Not yet. The wound is still too fresh, but she's ready to try. And for Damien Cross and the man who had everything and lost everyone, that's more valuable than any fortune. Elena reaches up, touches his face gently, then she kisses him. It's not passionate, not desperate, it's soft, tentative, real, a beginning instead of an ending. When they pull apart, Eleanor smiles. A real smile, the kind that reaches her eyes, tells him welcome back, not to his old life, but to the possibility of a new one. And Damien realizes standing there, holding this woman who saw him when he was invisible, that he finally found what he was looking for. Not someone who stays for his money, but someone who stays despite knowing everything. Someone who chose him, the real him, broken, honest, trying. And that's worth more than all the billions in the world. If this story touched your heart, like this video and subscribe. And tell me in the comments, rate this story from 0 to 10.